Hey there, everyone. I'm a 58-year-old woman currently wrapped up in a pretty big family drama, and my niece thought it might be helpful to share this situation on Reddit to get some different perspectives. So here goes the story. I have two sons, James, who is now 28, and Jack, who is 25. Let's rewind a bit to when James was 21. He was in a relationship with a girl, and things seemed to be going okay until everything went south. The big shock came when his girlfriend cheated on him with his younger brother, Jack. As if that wasn't tough enough, she ended up getting pregnant by Jack, and they had triplets. Yes, you heard that right, triplets. So you can imagine the sort of turmoil that caused in our family dynamics. Fast forward to now, those kids are growing, and Jack, the bio dad, is living with me. He's really struggling to manage everything. Jack works grueling hours, 6 days a week, earning just the minimum wage, while trying to raise 3 young kids on his own. It's been incredibly tough watching him try to balance work and fatherhood with hardly any support. Now, let's talk about James. He's done quite well for himself. After graduating from college, he started his own business, which has been quite successful. Financially, he's in a very comfortable position. However, despite his success, James has completely shut Jack out. He won't offer any financial help or support to Jack, even just as an uncle to his nephews or nieces. The situation has become even more strained because James is getting married in about 4 weeks, and he has decided not to invite Jack to the wedding. I can see how much this hurts Jack, and honestly, it hurts me too. Jack's life is pretty chaotic, and knowing that his brother has completely written him off doesn't help. In an effort to mend fences, I suggested to James that maybe he should consider playing some sort of role in his nephews' and nieces' lives, or at the very least, help his brother out a bit financially. I even pushed him to think about inviting Jack to his wedding, hoping it might pave the way for some sort of reconciliation. Unfortunately, James didn't take that well. He laughed off my suggestions and became quite upset. When I pushed the issue, emphasizing the importance of family and trying to pull us together, James lashed out. He went as far as threatening to stop paying part of my rent, which he's been helping with, as a way to express his frustration. This has all left me feeling incredibly conflicted. My niece sides with me, believing that family should support each other through thick and thin. And I deeply believe that too, especially considering everything I've done for my children over the years. I raised them on my own, nurtured them, and tried my best to guide them through life's challenges. It seems to me that as a family, we should be able to rely on each other, to lift each other up during tough times, rather than pushing each other away. But maybe I'm missing something here. Maybe there are aspects I'm not considering, or perhaps I'm letting my emotions cloud my judgment. I love my sons dearly, and it pains me to see them at odds like this. I feel stuck between a rock and a hard place, trying to bridge this growing gap between them while also standing up for what I think is right. So I turn to you, Reddit community. What do you think? Am I the a-hole here? Am I the bad guy for pushing James to reconsider his decisions about Jack and the kids? Should family loyalty and support override the past mistakes? Or is James justified in his actions? I would really appreciate any advice, insights, or opinions you can offer. Thanks for listening to this long story. I really needed to get it off my chest. Now for the top comments. Really? You're the a-hole. Your son was cheated on involving his brother, and do you think he owes his nephews and nieces financial and emotional support? Where's the emotional support for your son, who was literally ducked over by his brother? You're the a-hole. Is this real? Your son Jack is a huge hole. James must be thanking his lucky stars that he didn't have kids with his lying, cheating ex-girlfriend. He is now happy and starting a new life with his new wife. You would be the a-hole if you didn't go to his wedding. And how dare you manipulate him to invite his deadbeat brother and asking James to pay for Jack and his ex's kids? Hell no. Stop enabling Jack's piss-poor behavior. Be happy for James. I hope James stops paying your rent. You don't deserve his charity. You're the a-hole. Stay out of it. This is between them. And Jack betrayed his brother. James isn't obligated to forgive ever, but especially if there was no real apology or remorse. There's probably regret. But that's Jack's problem, not James's. Story 2. I have two sons, Robert and James, who are fraternal twins. Robert is gifted. He has an IQ in the top percentages of the population. He tested as gifted as soon as he started school. For a year, we tried the gifted program at the public school, but it wasn't enough for Robert, and he was ahead of the other and older children. We always thought he was advanced from his age. We found a school in another state for kids like Robert, and we moved there so Robert could attend. His abilities were met there, but he was still at the top of his entire school. We were fortunate to find similar schools for Robert for both junior high and high school. His elementary school often fed into the junior high and then the junior high to the high school. It involved more moves, but me and my husband wanted to give Robert the best schools for his abilities. Robert finished high school early and was in AP classes. Robert had trouble in college. We think it was him being younger than the other students who were all adults past age 18. He took a short leave of absence and then returned when he was closer in age to the other kids. In the meantime, he did more schooling and studying and joined Mensa. Robert had the highest IQ in his Mensa chapter. Robert had trouble at college. He wasn't failing by a long shot, but he also wasn't at the top of his classes, which we didn't understand at an Ivy school. He had some issues with the teachers and other students in his classes. So, ultimately, we decided Robert should leave for the time being. My husband helped Robert get a job, but he wasn't happy there. Robert wasn't meant for that job with his abilities and his IQ, and he eventually went back to college. He went to another Ivy and did well. He struggled with not being a top student. However, he still had good grades. And now Robert has a BS and a master's. He isn't sure if he wants to get a PhD now, but he's young and has time to decide. This brings me to my question. My son James has a job at NASA. I didn't know NASA's hired people without a college degree or schooling after high school, but I learned they do because James has worked there for years. James joined the Army after high school because college wasn't in the cards for him like it was for Robert. His job in the Army didn't require any college or education, and he didn't go to college when he left the Army. It was hard on Robert to see James get a job at one of the places he's always wanted to work. Me and my husband asked James if he could pass on Robert's resume and help him with getting hired at NASA. But James won't do it. He won't even talk about it now. You would think he would be proud of his brother and it would raise his status at NASA to have his brother there. But James won't budge. And he 100% really called my husband in a hole for even asking. I stopped to consider. James might feel envious if his gifted brother has a job at the same place. But in my mind, James should still help because it's what family does for each other. Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole first, because you clearly favor Robert over James too, because it is absolutely reasonable for James to want boundaries between his personal and professional life, especially since it seems like Robert struggles with professional environments like colleges and jobs. You're the a-hole. Look at your post. You primarily mentioned Robert. Your family moved multiple times for his education. Maybe James didn't feel like he was any priority to you with all these moves. You don't say that you're proud of James. You contacted him to help his brother out. Maybe he's sick and tired of feeling like the odd one out. You need to take a hard look and see how you've treated both boys. Oh my God, you're the whole times 1,000. So your son, who has basically been ignored and dragged along Robert's excellent adventure, doesn't want his current life to become more of the same. And you wonder, why are you serious? How unaware can you actually be? I'm surprised Stephen speaks to any of you, given that you made your entire world about Robert. Did you even think about James even once? If I were James, I'd move on and have nothing to do with any of you, just like you did his entire life so far. Huge hole, huge. Story 3. I have 2 sons, Isaiah 22 and Daniel 24. They had a great childhood together, save for the typical sibling disagreements, but nothing out of the ordinary. They grew up in a big family with loving grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins on both sides. However, as they entered their teenage years, they started resenting each other for outside reasons because there was no issue at home. Daniel was seeing a young lady when he was 20. It was his high school sweetheart, even after school, that he planned to get engaged to. But it never happened because Isaiah lied to her about Daniel stealing from her parents, and she and her parents believed him. Turned out Isaiah was the one who stole jewelry from Daniel's ex-girlfriend's parents' house and pinned it on Daniel. As a result, her parents filed a police report, and Daniel suffered from the lie. Isaiah told to get back at him for selling his bike that originally belonged to Daniel. They were both legally adults when this happened, and we were told to stay out of their conflict, but we couldn't help but get caught up in the middle. Eventually, the boys stopped seeing or talking to each other. Daniel lives in a rental apartment while Isaiah is still in college. Both boys are in contact with me and the family. Daniel is getting married this month. He sent me, his dad, and everyone else in the family an invitation except for Isaiah. I called Daniel to ask since I assumed he probably didn't send Isaiah an invitation, but expected him to accompany me and my husband. He told me no. He intended not to invite his brother because he doesn't want him at his wedding. I felt heavy because Isaiah already apologized and sought forgiveness and gave Daniel time and space to reconcile. But Daniel kept ignoring him, saying he wanted nothing to do with him. I explained how I felt he was being too harsh on his brother, and he told me to not pressure him about it and respect his decision. I didn't pressure him, but informed him that since Isaiah isn't invited, then I'm not coming to the wedding. Daniel threw a fit about how I was trying to corner him into inviting Isaiah, but I replied that I wasn't. I wasn't trying to pressure him or trying to change his mind. I was just letting him know. He lashed out, calling me unbelievable for making his wedding about Isaiah and not respecting his wishes. He added that I was selfish for putting Isaiah's feelings over his and on his wedding, no less. We argued. Then he hung up after telling me if I didn't attend, then he'll never speak to me again. We haven't talked since then, and my husband agrees that Daniel is the one complicating things and not being graceful towards his brother, who wants to share his happy day with him. Now for the top comments. So one son tried to ruin the other son's life with multiple lies. And you were pissed he wasn't invited to a wedding. You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. Isaiah is not owed and does not deserve Daniel's forgiveness. Neither do you, for continually trying to pretend like what Daniel did was excusable. If you don't go to that wedding, you will never know your grandkids. I dearly hope the family Daniel is marrying into are good people, because you are not. Oh, yeah, you're in a hole in this. Your husband is in a hole too, in this also, mostly because you're siding with the brother who quite literally committed a crime and used Danny as a scapegoat. I'd cut ties with him as well. So yes, you're a nice big ol' a-hole and you probably ruined your relationship with your son. At least you have a criminal in your corner. Congrats. Story 4. Hey everyone. So, here's the full scoop on what's been going down with my family, specifically between my two daughters, Ashley and Alyssa. It's a bit of a long story, but I really need to get this off my chest and maybe get some advice. Ashley is 27 now, and Alyssa is 24. Ever since they were kids, they've had a rocky relationship. Alyssa has always had this really strong, bold personality. She's the type who demands respect, and if she feels like she's not getting it, she'll let you know, and not always in the nicest way. She can be quite confrontational, often resorting to yelling or throwing sarcastic remarks if she's upset. Ashley, on the other hand, has always been more reserved and sensitive to Alyssa's outbursts. She really dislikes confrontations and has always felt bullied by Alyssa's aggressive behavior. This whole situation has been a challenge for our family. My husband always felt that Alyssa's behavior was unacceptable and that we should discipline her more strictly. I, however, saw it as just part of who Alyssa is, something that maybe she couldn't easily control. So I generally responded by just scolding Alyssa, hoping she'd tone it down, but I never took any serious disciplinary actions. Ashley, feeling unsupported and overwhelmed by the constant tension, began asking to spend weekends away from home when she was about 12. She found refuge at her grandmother's place, my mother-in-law's house. I thought my mother-in-law would encourage Ashley to try to understand Alyssa better, and maybe work on their relationship, given how much she values family. But it turned out, she actually supported Ashley's decision to keep her distance, which kind of allowed Ashley to avoid Alyssa almost completely. This set a pattern, and by the time Ashley was 18, she moved out for good. She cut off almost all contact with me and Alyssa, maintaining only a minimal connection with my husband. Fast forward to 2 years ago, I accidentally stumbled upon something that really shook me. I was helping my mother-in-law with her iPad, and I found photos of Ashley's wedding, a wedding none of us were invited to or even knew about. As I scrolled through the album, my heart sank further when I saw pictures of Ashley with a little girl, my granddaughter. I had no clue I even had a grandchild. It was a very emotional moment for me, realizing that these significant life events had happened without my knowledge. After discovering these photos, I reached out to Ashley. Our communication since then has been sparse and cautious, but I've been hoping to mend things somehow. Last week, I thought maybe we were ready to take a step forward, so I invited her over for dinner. It was meant to be a chance for us to reconnect after all these years. However, I didn't tell her that Alyssa would also be there. I thought maybe we could gently steer towards mending their relationship too. When Ashley arrived and saw Alyssa, she immediately became furious. She accused me of tricking her and started yelling. The situation escalated quickly and she left the house in anger. Later that evening, she called me, extremely upset, and we ended up having a heated conversation. She felt betrayed that Alyssa was there, and I tried to explain that Alyssa is her sister and that they need to find a way to get along. Unfortunately, I also said something I regret. I told her she was too old to be acting like this, which made her break down in tears and hang up. Since then, Ashley hasn't responded to any of my texts or calls. I'm left feeling devastated and helpless, replaying that night over and over in my mind, wondering if I could have handled it differently. Did I push too hard? Should I have been more upfront about Alyssa being there? It's been tough, and I'm really struggling with how to bridge this growing gap between my daughters and me. I miss Ashley terribly, and now knowing there's a grandchild I haven't met weighs heavily on me. I just wish we could find some way to be a family again, but I'm at a loss for what to do next. What do you all think? Where should I go from here? Am I the a-hole for saying that to Ashley? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. You let one daughter push the other one around to the extent that you haven't seen her in 9 years. She thought you reached out to make amends, but I'm guessing you're so self-absorbed. You didn't realize you ought to. The fact that no one told you about the wedding or the baby suggests there's an awful lot to this story you're not sharing here. So you're willing to call Ashley's behavior a childish tantrum. But whenever Alyssa behaves the same, it's just the way she is. You're the a-hole. The question Opie should be asking herself: isn't she too old for enabling a 24-year-old brat dollars to donuts that the younger sister is the mini-me that she always wanted? Her post just screams narcissism as it screams. Me, me, me. She has a golden child and a scapegoat. She lacks self-reflection. I mean, if your daughter more or less moved out at 12 and had many milestones without her, you would think she would start to question where OP failed. Nope. She goes into attacking and glossing over Ashley's feelings. She is a massive a-hole. Story 5. My ex-boyfriend's parents own a restaurant that's really close to our school. It's the kind of place where a lot of people from our school like to go after classes to hang out, grab some food, and chill. When we were still together, I used to go there a lot too, and it was pretty cool because it was super convenient and everyone from school was there. But then, my ex and I broke up. After the breakup, it felt really awkward to keep going to his parents' restaurant. I didn't want to run into him or his family because things were kind of tense between us. So, I stopped going there altogether. My friends understood and didn't want to go there without me either. They knew it would be weird for me, and they didn't want to make things uncomfortable. So, we all started looking for a new place to hang out after school. We found this pizza place a few streets over from our school. It was a bit of a walk, but the pizza was really good, and the atmosphere was nice too. After a while, the pizza place started offering a special student discount meal. This was awesome for us because it made eating there a lot cheaper, and we were all trying to save money. We started going there more often and even brought more friends along. Pretty soon, we became regulars at the pizza place. We were there almost every day after school, and the people who worked there got to know us. One day, while we were at the pizza place, we got into a conversation with the workers about where we used to hang out. We told them about the restaurant owned by my ex-boyfriend's parents and how most people from our school went there because it was so close. We didn't think much of it at the time. It was just casual conversation. A few weeks later, we found out some big news. The pizza place was planning to move closer to our school. This was super exciting for us because it meant we wouldn't have to walk so far to get there. The pizza place owners also offered to pay us if we handed out flyers to other students, letting them know about the new location and the student discount they were offering. It seemed like a win-win situation. We would get paid, and other students would find out about the great deals at the pizza place. But then, things took a turn. I heard from some people that my ex-boyfriend was really mad about the whole situation. He was saying that his parents thought they might have to close their restaurant once the pizza place moved closer, because they wouldn't be able to compete with the lower prices and the student discount. My ex was really upset and started blaming me for everything. He said that if I had just kept going to his parents' restaurant like everyone else, no one would have known about the pizza place, and they wouldn't have decided to move closer. He also accused me of using my popularity to get my friends to boycott his parents' restaurant. He claimed that I was handing out flyers to get back at him for the breakup, but that wasn't true at all. I wasn't trying to get back at him or hurt his parents' business. I agreed to hand out the flyers because they were paying us, and it seemed like a good way to earn some extra money. My friends didn't stop going to his parents' restaurant because I told them to. They just didn't want to go without me. They were being supportive and didn't want to put me in an awkward situation. In the end, it wasn't about getting back at anyone. It was just about finding a new place to hang out where we felt comfortable and could get good deals on food. It was unfortunate that my ex's parents' restaurant was affected, but that wasn't my intention. I just wanted to move on and find a new place to enjoy with my friends. Now for the top comments. Not the whole a-hole. If their business was so heavily dependent on one person, then they weren't in a good spot to begin with. Not the whole. If the viability of a restaurant depends on a group of people grabbing a quick bite after school, it was not doing well financially. It's a free market. You may control a lot, but it's laughable to think losing a handful of customers is the reason a restaurant is on its last legs. You and your friends are not responsible for the management of the restaurant or the price of the food, not the whole. If one person is the only thing keeping the balance book of an entire restaurant in the black, then the restaurant deserves to go under. The worst thing you can be accused of here is being a bellwether. It's very reasonable if you choose to go to another restaurant. I guess if he needed to keep the restaurant doing well, he should have been a better boyfriend. Story 6. So, I was married to my ex for almost 11 years. We had a long relationship, filled with its ups and downs like any other. We eventually decided to get a divorce a little over 2 years ago. It was an amicable divorce, meaning we didn't have huge fights or drama over it, but that doesn't mean it wasn't hard. It was tough on both of us, dealing with the end of such a long chapter of our lives. About 6 months after the divorce, I started dating someone new. My current boyfriend and I have been together ever since, and things have been going well. He's been really supportive and understanding, especially considering all the baggage that comes with dating someone who's been married for a long time. Now, here's where things get more complicated. My ex's mom, who was an amazing person, always treated me with kindness and respect. Even after the divorce, I had a lot of respect and good feelings toward her. We didn't stay in contact after the divorce because, naturally, she was focused on her son, my ex, and that's just how things go sometimes when families split. There's no bad blood, it's just a shift in dynamics. Unfortunately, she passed away recently due to some ongoing health problems she had been dealing with for years. When I found out, I was really affected. Even though I hadn't spoken to her in a long time, she had been a significant part of my life for 11 years. I cried when I heard the news because it felt like losing a family member all over again. She was someone who had a big impact on my life, and I would always remember her fondly. Her funeral was planned to be in my ex's hometown, a place with a lot of shared memories for us all. Before making any plans to attend, I made sure to check with my ex and his family to see if it would be okay for me and my family to come. They said it was fine, so we decided to go. But I was really nervous about it. I knew it would bring up a lot of old emotions, and I didn't know how everyone would react to seeing me there after all this time. Knowing how emotional I would be, I asked my current boyfriend if he would come with me to the funeral for support. He agreed because he understood how much this meant to me and wanted to be there for me. The day of the funeral arrived, and I was a bundle of nerves. I wasn't expecting everyone to be super friendly, but I also didn't expect the cold reception we got. As soon as my boyfriend and I walked in, we noticed a lot of people giving us dirty looks. My ex's family and some of my old friends who still talk to my ex were not happy to see us there together. We were in the main room, waiting to go into the service, when one of my ex's friends came up to us. He didn't hold back and told me straight up that my boyfriend was not welcome and needed to leave. I was shocked and didn't know what to say at first. I didn't want to make a scene at the funeral, so I decided the best thing to do was to leave quietly. My boyfriend and I left, but my family stayed for the service. Later that night, I got a text from another former friend. They told me it was extremely rude of me to bring my boyfriend to the funeral. This really hurt because I didn't mean to disrespect anyone. I just thought, after almost 2 years since the divorce, it wouldn't be a big deal for me to bring someone who could support me emotionally through such a difficult time. So here I am, feeling torn about the whole situation. I really needed someone there for me, and I didn't expect it to cause so much trouble. What do you all think? Was I wrong to bring my boyfriend to the funeral? How would you have handled it? I'd really appreciate some advice because I'm feeling pretty lost about how things went down. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. That's why you got so many glares. It really shouldn't need to be spelled out that this was about your ex and his family, his mother. I don't see that you had kids, so there's not even a complete reason for you to go. Ex's family is not family. Your ex-mother-in-law stopped talking to you and sided with her son. You could have easily sent flowers or cards to your ex-in-laws if you wanted to go. You should have gone with those mutual friends, or even your own parent or sibling. A new boyfriend is not appropriate. If you had kids and this was their grandma and you were remarried, that might be different. But none of that is the case. You're the a-hole. Why do you bring your boyfriend who didn't know the deceased, but would be a slap in the face of anyone who resented you from the breakup? That's a very selfish and strange thing to do. You're not an asshole for bringing him on the trip, but leave that guy who doesn't know anyone in the hotel would be the polite thing to do. Same with bringing your Uber driver. He didn't belong there. And if you needed his support to deal with the death of someone you haven't interacted with in years, and that need takes priority over the person's family, then you're the a-hole. You're the a-hole for bringing your new boyfriend to your ex, his family, especially if they had never met him before. That was very rude. Your ex lost his mother. He was already grieving. Then you come to the funeral, which is okay with your new boyfriend, which could be seen as flaunting him. Your boyfriend didn't need to be there and should have stayed home.